Today, we're going to talk about a major decision facing a community in Rockville, Maryland. The school superintendent there has recommended permanently closing Wootton High School. And as you can imagine, this proposal has kicked up some really serious questions about the process, the data being used, and, honestly, the future of a school that's been a community anchor for decades. So let's break down what's really at stake here.
To really get a sense of how serious this is, we can just start right here with this statement from the city of Rockville's own mayor and council. I mean, this really gets to the heart of it. This is a potentially irreversible decision, and the consequences could ripple through this community for years to come.
Okay, so let's dive into the specifics. What exactly is being proposed? Because this isn't just a simple boundary change we're talking about. This is a plan to permanently shut down a high school campus that's been around for a long, long time.
So, on February 5th, the superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools, Dr. Thomas Taylor, officially put this recommendation on the table. It's got three main parts. First, permanently close the Wootton High School campus. Second, move every single student to Crown Farm High School, which is about 3.5 miles away. And third, turn the now empty Wootton campus into something they call a holding school. And the clock is ticking. The final vote is scheduled for March 26th.
So you're probably asking, what on earth is a holding school? Well, it's basically a temporary campus. Students and staff from other high schools all over the county would get bussed into the Wootton building for a year or two while their own schools are getting renovated. The key thing to understand here is that it would no longer serve the local walkable community it was built for.
Now here's where things get really interesting. The timeline. The speed at which this whole proposal went from a brand new idea to a final vote has become a huge point of concern for residents and local officials. They feel like they haven't really had a fair shot at giving meaningful input.
Just take a look at this timeline. The process starts back in June 2025 with a few different options for the new Crown High School, and the community got 5 months to comment. But option H, the plan to actually close Wootton, it wasn't even introduced until December 1st. And here's the critical part. No extra time was added for public input. So this radical new idea was dropped right before the holidays, with just a few weeks for people to review it before the superintendent made his final recommendation.
And look, this wasn't just a feeling people had. The city of Rockville literally put it in writing. They stated there was not sufficient time for engagement. They also pointed out that, unlike with other big school changes, the superintendent never even held a meeting with the affected school communities to talk about the plan before he recommended it.
So you've got this really rushed process, right? And it seems to be based on planning and data that have raised some pretty big questions. Community members and even city planners are starting to ask, does the basic reason for closing this school even hold up to scrutiny?
And this really is the central question, isn't it? The city of Rockville is a designated high-growth area for the county. We're talking thousands of new homes being planned. So why on earth would the school system's plan involve permanently closing a high school right in the middle of all that growth? You'd be effectively reducing your long-term capacity. It just doesn't seem to make sense.
This slide just illustrates one of the key data problems the city pointed out. It's pretty amazing. In October, official data showed that a nearby high school, Richard Montgomery, was over capacity. But then by December, in the exact documents being used to justify closing Wootton, that same school was suddenly listed as no longer over capacity. And this change happened even though the school is using 9 portable classrooms and has over 1,000 new homes approved nearby. It raises some serious questions about how reliable the data is that's driving this whole decision.
And these concerns aren't just local. They've actually made their way up to the state level. State Senator Cheryl Kagan, who represents this area, publicly called out the school system for what she described as really bad estimates. She argued that cities like Rockville need to have a seat at the table when these huge planning decisions are being made.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about the process and the data, but let's focus on the community itself. How would this decision actually impact the people in the neighborhoods that this school has served for decades? Because, a school is often so much more than just a building for classes.
And we can really ground this conversation in the official testimony from the city government itself. They spelled out very clearly what's at stake for the community if the Wootton campus is no longer a neighborhood high school.
Yeah, for over 50 years, the Wootton campus has basically been a de facto community center. It's where scout troops meet, it's a venue for local congregations, it's a walkable polling place for elections. There's this really special partnership with the middle school right next door, Frost, for tutoring and events. If you take the high school away, you're not just moving a school, you're dismantling this entire civic ecosystem that's been built up over generations.
And then there's the timing of this final push, which has been deeply, deeply concerning for a lot of people.
The vote to close the school is scheduled just a few weeks after the community went through the trauma of an on-campus shooting that really shook students and families across the entire area. Pushing forward with his vote at this exact moment has left a lot of people feeling completely unheard.
So with all these concerns about the process, about the data, about the community impact, what is the community actually asking for? And this is important because it's not about just blocking any and all change. It's about making sure that change is done responsibly.
And at its heart, the request is actually pretty simple. The community and its elected leaders are asking for good governance. They're not saying Wootton can never change. What they are demanding is a credible, transparent process before an irreversible decision gets made.
And they've even offered a constructive alternative, which this slide lays out really well. The city of Rockville proposed what they call a modified recommendation. Now, this plan still uses the new Crown High School building, first for Magruder students, then for Wootton students, but only temporarily while their home schools get renovated. This approach keeps Wootton open for its community in the long run, and it calls for a proper study down the road to decide Crown's permanent population. It's a solution that seems to address the district's needs without having to sacrifice a community anchor.
So for folks in the community who want to get involved, the organizers of the Save Wootton effort have laid out some really clear, actionable steps. Attend the final public hearings. Email the Board of Education directly. Sign the community petition, which already has thousands of signatures, and visit their website for the latest information.
And so really, it all comes down to this one question. With all these concerns over the process, the data, and the deep community impact, will the Board of Education push forward on March 26th? Or will they hit pause and make sure a credible, transparent process is actually followed before making a decision that, once it's made, can't be undone?